It turns out that you can't submit any add-on to the Blender extensions platform and hope it will be accepted as is. In this video, I'll be going over the 7 most common issues I have seen when people submit their add-ons to the extension platform for approval. If you're new here, I'm Victor Stepanov, and I love helping artists learn the Python programming language. Before I start, I want to underline that the example submissions I'll be pointing out are just examples. I am in no way shaming the developers that submitted them. I would have made a number of these mistakes myself. Let's start with the first issue that kept coming up, and it's all about clear communication about what your add-on does. I've seen submissions where the add-on was described with a single picture and a single sentence. Sometimes the screenshots in the descriptions didn't really make sense. There were no videos or GIFs showing the add-on in action, or the description of the add-on included only GIFs. Some extensions didn't have any meaningful tooltips. I've even seen add-ons described in another language. Actually, it would be pretty cool if the extension platform would support localization, allowing a user to select another language if the description was available in that language. The root cause of most of these issues is connected with the curse of knowledge. You wrote this add-on, and so you know exactly what it does and all its main features. And having a single screenshot and a single sentence might be enough for you to understand what it does. But that's not the case for other people. Of course, there's another root cause of this, and that's just laziness. But I know that you're not one of those lazy developers. But how do you solve these issues? Well, the answer is pretty obvious. Write meaningful descriptions of your add-ons, create good screenshots, videos, and GIFs of your add-on in action. Well, this is all obvious, but how do you really do that? Well, for me personally, I like to have a list of questions that I like to answer when I'm writing documentation about the code that I've written. Here's an example list of those questions. What problem is your add-on solving? Who is the add-on for? Is it riggers, animators, modelers? How do you interact with your add-on? What UI elements and menus did you provide, and where can you find them in Blender's UI? What are the main features of your add-on? What are the settings and shortcuts? What are some common issues that a user might experience, and how to troubleshoot them? Let me show you some examples of extensions with great documentation. The first extension I want to show you is the non-destructive modeling toolkit. It has a lot of great images describing the add-on in action. It actually has a whole separate site with that documentation describing the different shortcuts, going as far as adding videos of how that add-on works. And here's another great add-on with great images describing how the add-on would work. It has a number of GIFs in the documentation showing what you might find when working with this add-on. If you have some great examples of someone providing outstanding documentation about an add-on, please make sure to share them in the comments. I would love to see them. The next common issue can be summarized as it works on my machine, but the problem here is that it should not only work on your machine, but on other people's machines as well. This means if you've developed your add-on on a Windows machine, you should make sure that your add-on works well on Mac OS and Linux. Sometimes add-ons can only work on a particular operating system, but that is usually an exception than a rule. Some common symptoms of this issue: I've seen people submit add-ons that have file paths that only work on Windows, add-ons that raise errors if there's no object selected, add-ons that fail when you install them into a Blender with factory settings, or an add-on just can't be installed from disk, add-ons depending on other add-ons that are not installed, and developers not providing good instructions for the Blender developers to test your add-on. This refers back to the previous point of good documentation. So how do you make sure you don't run into these issues? Well, it's all about thoroughly testing your add-on. First of all, make sure to start Blender with factory settings and disable any add-ons that you have installed. Install your extension from disk to make sure that that installation path works. Have a checklist of the main features of your add-on, and make sure to go through that checklist each time you release a new version of your add-on. When testing those main features of your add-on, make sure to do actions that you would not expect a user to do. For example, deselecting the object, deleting the object, selecting all the objects in the scene, going into another mode like sculpt mode, changing the scene, renaming the object, and so on. Make sure that your add-on will survive all these interactions. On a subconscious level, it's really hard to do these tests because you are the developer and you have spent a lot of time making sure that your add-on works. So the best way to test your add-on is actually giving it to a friend or a community member and letting them try to break your add-on. Also, make sure to test your add-on on different platforms. So if you've developed your add-on on Windows, make sure to find a Mac and a Linux machine that you can test that your add-on works there as well. If you don't have access to those platforms, you could probably ask a friend or a community member, and I'm sure you'll be able to find someone with the operating system that you're looking for. And of course, bonus points if you write detailed instructions on how to test your add-on. The Blender developers reviewing your add-on will thank you. And on the point of people thanking each other, I have a small rant. One thing that jumped out at me was the high quality of the feedback and review the Blender developers and moderators were giving each submission, but only a handful of people actually said thank you for the feedback. This was just mind-boggling to me because people are just taking these reviews for granted and don't say something as simple as thank you. So when you'll be submitting your extensions to the Blender extensions platform, please make sure to say thank you to the people that will review your add-on. Rant over. Okay, the next most common mistake I have seen was that the extensions were not self-contained. For example, an extension would try to run pip to install third-party packages as the add-on was loading. This is a big no-no because one of the primary requirements for an extension is that an extension needs to be self-contained, meaning that any dependencies that your add-on has will be shipped inside of the folder of your add-on. This means that any third-party packages or any other add-ons need to be in the same folder. To fix this, you need to bundle your dependencies with your add-on. For the third-party Python packages, you would need to use Python wheels and register them in the manifest of your extension. And for the dependencies that are other add-ons, you need to make sure to have copies of those add-ons in the folder of your add-on without the manifest for those add-ons. Now, you should take great care when you're bundling those add-ons together because you need to account for those add-ons potentially being installed by the user as a standalone add-on. If this doesn't really make sense, don't worry. I have made a separate video going a bit deeper into this topic, and I'll leave a link in the description where you can check that out if you're interested. And if you're learning something new and enjoying this video, make sure to hit the like button. I'll really appreciate it. One of the new metadata fields is called permissions, and I've seen a number of people forget to set them. In this permissions field, you need to make sure to specify what operating system features your add-on needs to successfully work. For example, if your add-on needs to open and load files or connect to an external service or server over the internet, or maybe your add-on needs to have access to a user's camera or microphone. All these permissions need to be specified in the manifest. To fix this, you need to mention one of those permissions and a short description describing why exactly you need that permission. If you don't specify this, that will be called out in your review. Let's take a look at some of the examples of other extensions that have provided these permissions. For example, this extension right here, this extension requires the files permission, and it needs it because it's loading and saving some files from disk. It also needs the network permission because it's connecting to some service, and the clipboard permission because it's copying and pasting errors from the log. Here is another one, which is an Autodesk Max file importer, right? It needs to have file permissions to load the Max files from disk. By the way, I have an extended version of this video where I go over some more issues that I have found that are slightly less common, but still worth keeping in mind. If you're interested, I've shared that with my email subscribers. And if you want to get access to that video, I'll leave a link in the comments for you to subscribe, and I'll send that video over to you as well. Another common issue I've seen developers make is packaging up files that don't need to be in the extension zip file. For example, developers would package up the PyCache folder that is generated when an add-on runs in Blender. I've seen developers package up metadata files from macOS and also Python files that are just not even used in the add-on. To fix this issue, you have two options. Option 1 is being vigilant each time you create the zip archive of your extension. And option 2 is using the extension build command that is part of Blender that will actually generate the zip archive. You can define some file patterns in the manifest toml that Blender will ignore when packaging up your extension. Let me know in the comments if you're interested about a video describing how this extension build command works. The next issue is all about branding. And one of the things that you should not do is use Blender's branding in anything that relates to your extension. You should not have Blender in the title of your add-on. For example, calling your add-on Blender's UV tool. Also, you should not use any Blender logo in any of your screenshots or icons describing your add-on. All of this is not acceptable by the Blender developers. The fix for this is pretty simple and is just not use any Blender's branding in anything that's related to your add-on. I've also seen people name their extension something Blender 4. So they have the Blender version right in the name. It's definitely not a good idea because you'll need to submit another extension for when Blender 5 comes out, and so on. And last but not least, the final 7th common issue I've seen is the extension developers not following the converting legacy add-ons to extensions guide. When creating the extension platform, the Blender developers made sure to provide instructions on how you can convert your legacy add-on to an extension. The Blender developers have created a great checklist for you to follow to make sure that your add-on can be converted into an extension. For example, I've seen a lot of extensions being submitted with the BL info dictionary, which is now deprecated and replaced by the manifest toml. Developers not updating the imports to relative imports and trying to use system path manipulations to make sure that their modules are imported, replacing references to the module name with _package, and I've already mentioned making sure that your extension is self-contained. To fix all these issues, it's pretty straightforward. It's all about following the guide that the Blender developers have provided, removing the BL info dictionary from your code, replacing the references of the modules with _package, bundling all the dependencies of your add-on in the same folder, and making sure that all the imports are relative. Alright, I hope you enjoyed this video. And if you want to get that extended video where I go over more issues I've found, make sure to subscribe to my email list by using the link in the comments, and I'll send you that video.